Okay, believe I'll call the meeting to order at 6:35. That's not right, I think. Do you have a time?
That's what my phone says.
6:35, yes. And draw attention to the Open Meeting Act paper in the back, and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
and then we'll proceed to take roll call. Isla,
Yes.
Arlene,
Yes.
and Don,
Yes.
and Larry is absent. Okay. If you have all had a chance to look at the minutes, there are several. We're going to move the minutes up to the first of the meeting here, get those done. You have in your packet the regular September 8th meeting. We had a special meeting on the 16th. The first meeting dealt with business at hand for the a couple of things for purchase and for the economic development. And the second part of that meeting was to hear the budget hearing and tax request. Then we had one more, which, as you can see, was number one on this month's agenda, was a liquor license approval for the Leader Wedding. And Mr. Kleinsmith approached me and said that he contacted the Liquor Commission, and they told him he needed to have that in there by 4 o'clock on Friday, so it was 10 working days ahead of the weekend he was going to need it. So we all scrambled and accommodated that, and that meeting is there. But I just have to tell you that this is the wonderful world of communication, and where and when and if and who said what. But Saturday I came in, and at 4:30 the liquor license was here, and so we didn't need 10 days. So unless they wanted it to sit on our desk for 10 days. So one of those deals. So if you've had a chance to look at those, can we approve those en masse, or do we have to do each one?
No, you can approve it all together.
Okay, so I would, if you've had a chance to read these, if you have any discussion or any comments or anything that needs to be corrected, changed, or whatever. We did a lot of business monkey business last month. If not, if somebody would like to make a motion to approve those, we can get that order of business done.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular city council meeting and then the special meetings.
Okay, moved by Don.
I'll second.
Second by Arlene, to approve all of the minutes held in September, of the meetings held in September. And Dawn, I'll call for your vote first.
Yes.
And Arlene?
Yes.
And Isla.
Yes.
Okay, so we can scratch the number one on the license because or the liquor license, that's taken care of. And we have visiting tonight Vonda Lange, and if you'd like to introduce, I forget names, but they want to talk to us about a thing called pickleball.
This is Marilyn Wilson, a friend of mine. She lives at the lake, and we're here this evening. We'd like to ask the mayor and the council if we could rent the auditorium to play pickleball. Now, if you're not familiar with pickleball, it is the fastest growing sport in the world. It gets played on a court 44 foot by 20 foot with paddles and balls like this, wiffle type balls. There's indoor and outdoor balls. And we'd like to rent the auditorium to start playing pickleball in here during the cold months.
What days do you want to rent it?
We were thinking Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We, of course, don't to interfere with cheerleaders' exercise classes. The hardest part of the whole thing is going to get it scheduled and, get it going. I've asked around in town a few people, and I have some interest going on. I have not asked a whole lot of people, and I'd like to actually put it in the paper and see how many people would like to come and try it.
Would you do it in the evenings or daytime?
Evenings, I believe.
Okay.
And as far as the age group, 14 to 75 or
As long as you can move.
right. And then the second item is there's a tennis court down in the North Park, the Bob Sprockel Memorial Park. I would also like permission to clean that off and paint a court down there, pickleball court, just the lines, and play down there during the warm weather.
I never thought about this earlier, Rhonda, but if you painted those lines on for that court, if somebody came along and said, we want the tennis court back and wouldn't those lines be inside the tennis lines?
You can have both the lines on.
Yeah.
I've been playing with Marilyn and her friends at Westside Park in Yankton, and they have both the lines on the
That's what,
court
okay.
there.
So it shouldn't be a problem.
And I was wondering if there's an existing net tucked away somewhere, and of course Boomer's not here tonight.
We have,
You do?
yes.
Awesome.
So what kind of nets is it, Vaughn? Is it volleyball or short?
It's a cross between tennis, badminton, and ping pong. And you
So
can
but it
play.
uses a tennis net?
Oh, you use the tennis net, yes.
You can use it, okay. And we already
You
have
can play
one.
singles or you can play doubles, which is 4 people. Singles is 2 people, doubles is 4 people. And then if we get a lot of interest, I think the people, if there's more there than 4, they just wait till you rotate out. Now, as far as COVID, with the court being 20 foot by 44 foot, you are, socially distancing. As far as everyone touching the same balls, the balls come in different colors. My thought was maybe we have our own balls and our own color, which would be more chasing the ball, but you gotta think positive, more exercise.
Right?
Then would they sign the form for COVID to release the city of Indiana?
Release a waiver.
Yeah.
We just did, like all the other sports, we had all the participants sign a waiver of responsibility for the city, for using city property.
Sure.
Monday nights might, we have a city council meeting on Monday night, so that might be a conflict.
Yes, we understand that, and then I imagine on some Friday nights, if it's rented for a wedding reception, then that would
Right?
eliminate that also. I just have to be in close contact with the city office.
Right. And Sherry's got that same agreement that Tuesday and Thursday is always hers unless there's something else going on. And sometimes, I know the planning and zoning had a meeting in here and she still did hers Thursday night. Planning and zoning went in the kitchen, so they're small enough. It was, not that many people here, so
Yeah.
it's very workable.
And as far as the net, for the net in here, Maryland has purchased a portable net.
Portable.
And we would just, if it doesn't interfere with anything, we move it to the side, or if
Yep.
something more major was going on, we would take it out.
And there's closets in there we can use too. And the guys, and as we talked earlier, we've already discussed the painter's tape for the lines, and the damage to items underneath any kind of tape tends to happen with extended time being down more than anything. So the guys agreed or suggested that if you put it down on Monday and take it up on Friday, those 5 days, it's after 8 days, right? After 8 days is when it starts doing damage. And it can be checked every once in a while, make sure it's not pulling. the wax we're gonna make. So, if there's no objections or any further discussion, let's have a quick vote and say that that's how we feel about that. If we can combine that to give them permission to come in here as well as use the outdoor courts.
Of course, I'll make a motion to give the pickleball a chance for a year and see what happens.
Okay. A motion by Arlene to experiment with pickleball.
I'll second that.
A second by Isla. So, vote Isla,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
and Arlene.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you.
you bet. Okay, I wanted to clarify this. There's a deal in the packet here. Can't find it. Oh, this budget summary. It says the notice of the budget hearing and budget summary. And then at the bottom it says the notice of the special hearing to set the final tax request. That comes with the budget from this off the line. And the first one that I filled out, actually the computer picks up your numbers like all the rest of that budget and puts it on the line, and I didn't check it. So it went in and I caught that the numbers were wrong, so I called somebody, state probably, yeah, the auditor's office. And they said, that's okay, just correct it and then put the right one in the paper. So that has already been published. We got that back today, I think. Thank you, Brooke, got all those back. So I just wanted to clarify what that is. And on that subject then, at the bottom is the special hearing and setting of the final tax request. And if you recall at that budget meeting, I didn't have that at that point. And so Mr. McNally has brought, that has to be set by ordinance? Resolution. And, go to. Anyway, we handed those out after we got in here. There is a resolution that will where'd it go? Yeah. Well, I went to copy it and must not get a copy. Yeah, thank you. I got 2 copies of that contract and 1 copy of this. So the resolution that sets the property tax request, so that resolution would be number, what is today? 5th. So it'd be 10/5/2020 or 10/5/20. And if you want to read through that, this is the resolution that asks for the general property. We don't have a debt service levy, so the general fund levy is for 50 cents. The value, and I can look at this, total assessed value of the property differs from last year, and that's on that special hearing. If you will look at that one, you have, no, this is not 1819. Sorry about that. I just noticed that. I don't know which one you got, but I've got 1819 in front of me. Hang on, it's right here. 1920, there it is. The operating budget, the assessed value last year was $35,179,982. This year, $36,311,385. So our property value has gone up. If you looked at the papers that came out from the county, I was kind of pleased because most of that's due to new houses, new buildings. That's a good point as far as I'm concerned. We talked about that many times when we was talking about developing Sharon Street, that if we got the houses built, that would increase the base, and that would be property tax we would see every year. Not just in one year, but in every year. So it differs from last year's value by, where's my percentage, 3%. And the tax rate, which would levy the same amount of property taxes, would be 48,4420. And so we propose to adopt a property tax request that will cause the rate to be 50% or 50 cents per $100. And that is will exceed last year by nothing, actually the same percentage. A copy of the resolution be certified forward to Knox County Clerk prior to, and I think that's October, what? 13th, I believe. And that's when they will, when the county commissioners meet and they will set our levy. So we need a vote on this to approve this particular one.
Cheryl, can I ask one question?
Sure.
I don't understand the budget very well at all, but on the unused budget authority created for next year, the one that was wrong was 600 and some thousand. Now it's 354, and in the last 2 fiscal years' budgets, it was like 180,000. Can you tell me what that is?
Not exactly. But like I said, that 600,000 was an error which came through the computer. I put something wrong somewhere. The budget authority is that amount of money which is available to be used in the year. Am I right, Mr. McNally? Am I saying that right? So if you have unused budget authority, that's carried over from the prior year. Am I right in that?
That's called cash reserve.
That's in your cash reserve, which comes in at the top of your budget. The cash reserve, right now I have to do some adjustments on the cash reserve because the cash reserve must be the same figure at the bottom of your, like 2018 has to be the same at the top of 2019. And yet, 2018 will include what was being held at the county in property tax for us. And then when that is issued to us in the next fiscal month, which in our case is October, then that goes into the property tax that came in. So we have to take that out and adjust it, but then adjust back in what is sitting there again. And in that process is where I think that my error came in. Last year, they called us and told us exactly what was sitting there. This year, I asked Lisa to call over and just check with them, and she said, well, it's on your paper, which they show a total of what has come in and what they paid and then what's sitting there. But we had gotten ours after, they'd sent it out after we got that paper, so they had less sitting there. So if the state called them at any point, it was different than ours, and I'm still trying to figure out what happened.
Well, I guess my point is that we have $354,000 that we didn't use last year. Is that what you're saying? Or it's money that we're not going to budget for this next fiscal year over and above what we need? Then why are we doing 50 cents for a tax rate if we have that much excess?
You can carry over, a lot of your carryover comes from your interlocal agreements and so forth about what your process or what your plan is to spend it. So that comes into that figure. If you plan to spend a certain amount on capital expenditures and not flat out costs, then there's an adjustment made about what because if let's say that we plan to spend $150,000 on the sewer, but they didn't get it done, so we didn't spend it, then we can carry that over. That doesn't mean we should spend it, and it doesn't mean that we don't want the 50 cents to do the operating, because that's already spoken for. And beyond that, I don't think I can explain it any better. So, but maybe if you wanted to come in and take a look at it, sit down and go through the budget, do the reading. I always have to go back and read everything before I make the next move. So, so moving on to,
Excuse me, Cheryl,
yes.
question. On line 1, are you saying you actually made a mistake pulling out the 2018-19 disbursements and transfers? That should be a solid number for the year end last year. It shouldn't have, the computer
Donna,
shouldn't
Donna,
have
what
changed.
should have and could have doesn't matter at this point, does it?
Well,
I said what I
it's a
think.
matter of trusting your books.
Okay. Then ask your question again. The mistake
The
was,
very first line was 2018-19 actual disbursements and transfers. The books should have been closed. That number...
no, they were not closed, ma'am. They are not closed. We do our budget before the end of...
2019.
Yes, and we do the budget on the 20th of September and the books aren't closed. Don't yell at me. Thank you. They are not closed.
I'm saying, and I appreciate that because now I can hear.
Okay. We went through this at the budget hearing.
And completely different from the numbers that you submitted at the budget hearing.
And I explained that. I'm not going to sit here and argue with you. Come to the office and have this discussion. I've asked you last time, let's stop let's stop the gotcha stuff. If you want a question, come in.
It's not a gotcha, it's a presentation.
Number 3, the clarification of the budget summary is closed. Number 4, the discussion and possible resolution requesting the levy allocation is done, or not. We need to vote the levy allocation. I filled in the blanks as well as I could without writing them down. Does anybody on the council have a question? We will be asking for the 50 cents levy as we did at the budget hearing, and we already voted that that's what we were going to do. This is simply filling in the paperwork. Do we even need to vote, Mr. McNally?
Need motion to introduce, pass the resolution.
The resolution. Yes, we've already voted on the 50-cent levy. So we need a resolution, or excuse me, a motion to pass the resolution number 10520, which is to be sent to the county to ask for the money.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution 10520 so it can get to the county.
Okay? Motion by Arlene. Do I have
I'll
a
second
second?
it.
Second by Isla. Don?
The vote should be Arlene first.
Okay. Arlene voted first last time.
No.
No, Isla voted first. And I told you I went around the circle. Isla, you're next to Isla. Okay, Arlene,
Yes.
you're going the wrong way, Don. Don
Yes,
and Isla.
Yes.
I'm just keeping track of who votes first.
Okay. And she didn't vote first last time.
Arlene didn't.
No.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And that's who I asked for first vote.
So you asked me first.
Okay. I don't know at this point.
I told you I don't do it, and I will.
No, you said to me, the last thing you said to me in there was, I don't care if you don't, so I'm not gonna be here anyway.
Because you were not agreeing with what I said, so you're the mayor, and I said, whatever.
Okay. And I'm trying to make a rotation. What's the law on rotation?
It doesn't matter, within your discretion.
And Don wanted to know if I was making a rotation, and I said, I tried to start with the next person in line. Tonight I started, because you had questioned it, I starting with the person that made the motion.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Arlene made the first motion, and I was the first one to vote.
Okay. Actually, I'm glad you're keeping track.
Thank you.
We'll let you call them from here on. So, what's next on the agenda? We are scratching number 5. You have your claims in front of you, and if you have any comments about the claims, we'll listen to those at this point. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the claims.
Motion by Don to approve claims. Second?
I'll second.
Second by Arlene. Okay, this should be calm.
I should be first. Yes.
Arlene?
Yes.
And Isla?
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
You're tabling the water rate
Yes.
increase till next month,
Yes.
is that correct?
Yes, table the water rates.
The financial report, there isn't.
You have in your hands, if you picked up a copy, I was going to go through this example. If everybody can at least give me the courtesy to pretend that you believe me, I'll go through it.
It's questionable, the numbers can't be reduplicated, Cheryl. Did you print off a May profit and loss?
All right, would you just listen to this next topic, Donna?
I just want to say, could you print off a copy of the profit and loss for July, and would it be the same numbers
As what?
right now? If you printed it off right now, would it give me a duplicate of what was printed in July?
Probably not. Probably not.
Are there extra copies of the financials statement at all?
How many did we have up
We
there?
did 8. We did 8.
We had 2 extra.
Which one are you going to first? I'll get a couple more. I just wanted to say to follow along with, I can go make a copy. of
Here,
this one.
I don't want to
take-
bend over, but here, take these.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to drop it.
Do you want me to make a copy for you, Cheryl?
I'll use ours.
Okay, I just wanted to follow along. with
Okay,
something.
I'm going to do this one time, and I'm not going to take the nasty remarks. That's it. I'm not going to do it. If you will look at, you have 2 profit and losses. I just copied these before I came in here. At the top of the one, it says clerk books. At the top of the other, it says QuickBooks. I think, Irma, that this one of the last month and the fiscal year to date, you've seen this in the folders, and I know you've asked for this one. it's a good comparison of this last month to the fiscal year to date. But somewhere along the line, I kept seeing things happening with this. So just very quickly, if you will, look at the QuickBooks. I started going to the QuickBooks file, which if you are not, let's start with this. QuickBooks takes in all the numbers. And QuickBooks is one of the best accounting systems out there. They've been around. It was probably the first one. I don't think anybody questions that. We have been in touch with QuickBooks themselves. They have contacted an office in Yankton that is to perhaps try to find out what's going on. They've made 2 phone calls, but still have another one to make to see if we're going to set up some kind of meeting. I don't blame QuickBooks, I don't blame ClerkBooks, I don't blame anybody, but our books are messed up. And I've been trying to find out why and where and when. If you will look at the QuickBooks one, I put numbers on because, let's see if I can explain this properly. If I have, let's start with water, sewer, and garbage, because the expenses are the biggest problem. So if I have water, sewer, and garbage, and water was numbered as 7,000 because your 4,000s are income, your 6,000s are expense, and 7,000s are the water, sewer, and garbage expense. So the 4,500s were the water, sewer, and garbage and the income. So if you have the 7,000 is the water expense, 7,100 was the sewer, and 7,200 the garbage. Those were to line up against the 4,500s, and you would show a direct profit loss from those 3 proprietary funds. And normally those are correct. They've lined up pretty well. Go to the 4,000s, and if you will look on the QuickBooks file, let me back up one more step. So on the 7,000, 7,100, 7,200, 7,300, there's this whole list of alphabetical. So let's say auto repair for A, let's say bum legs for the next one, could do better than the C's, and on and on and on. And that same expense is in all 3 of those. They're not numbered, but they are alphabetical. But if you go into the chart of accounts to try to find something and you happen to click on something and move it, it goes over and becomes a sub-account of something because it doesn't have a number to line it up. And even the numbers can get messed up. So after some discussion with Eddie and with the girls and with everybody, I said, you know, what if we numbered all of those so that they were obvious? Because if I wanted to, for example, I have gas to buy at the filling station, and I want to put it in Parks and Rec, or I want to put it on the streets, or I want to put it at the sewer plant, or I want to put it just in the general running of the city. All of those accounts are there. But when I say vehicle expense, then I've got to choose a class, and that class is what Eddie has lined up as funds. So when we were getting profit and loss by fund, those would come, that you would see all of those, you know, your swimming pool, your parks, all of this. And so as we're looking at that, we said, well, look at that. That's in QuickBooks, and it says by class. So when I talked to Eddie, I said, the fund is the same as the class. He said, yes. And your class has to be lined up with your equity account. And if your equity account, and if they're not in the same order, then that profit and loss is not going to go into the right equity account. So I said, so what if the auto expense gets in the wrong class, and it's in the parks instead of in the swimming pool, and then it goes into the swimming pool equity account. Well, it's the wrong account. So because of the closing tools, that's what happens. All of those get sorted out and put into equity. So if they're in the wrong class to begin with, they're going to go in the wrong equity. And if their books are closed, you can't get them out without all kinds of general journal entries, which is what Eddie has been doing at the end of the fiscal year several times, and many times the big long papers you folks got, that's what was happening. I took it out of here, and put it over here. Except that when Eddie does that, he knows the program so well, and he'll just put a reason to adjust to the right fund. We don't know what that is. And that's what's caused our fear of things being done wrong. That's what's caused our mistrust. Where's it come from? Where's it going? So I remember back in the day, way back when I was doing books for all the truckers on rawhide carriers, we had a number for each truck. And then we coded that number into, because they all had fuel, they all had permits, they all had license, they all had all of that. So if you coded that expense into the number of the truck, you could take your expenses against each truck. So the girls in the office had no idea which truck was doing what, but if those guys put on their ticket that they're number one truck, they could code that in. Then when it got to the accountants and so forth and the computer operators, the data people could put it in there right, and everything came out right. So we started with renumbering. We didn't try to change any arrangement at first I didn't try to rearrange anything. But then I looked at the county papers that came in with the money that was coming in. And it was always in the same order. Not alphabetical, not any rhyme or reason to me, but it's the way they had it. So it seemed easy to me that when that sheet came in, that whoever's at that computer can code that in the same order. Double check it, yes, because there may be something missing that month. But on the very first page of your QuickBooks, the 4,100 is the Knox County dispersals. And there you have that number, that 5% gross PPD. I have no idea what it was. It came in once, I think, all year. But it was first on the sheet. So I created those. Now you're going to see some numbers skipped because those numbers were used for some other reason, and some maybe back 2 years and then was made inactive, but you can't use it again. So if I tried to put a number in, it would say, can't use this number, it was already used, it's inactive. So fine, we'll just go to the next one. Tried to keep them in groups of 5s and 10s if they were related, those kind of things. If you will see 4,000 all the way through 4130, that's all the money that comes from the county. If you will look at clerk books, there's current real estate and property tax, which is what's the number one thing on your budget deal, and that's what we use for that big number. That's that 50 cents. And then you have that homestead allocations. You have prior year delinquent taxes. That's when we pick it up. Somebody's paid in late. And you have motor tax current year, and you have TIP. Now TIP goes in and out. So we could probably, but you don't want to take it out of the same one. You want to know what all that income was coming in. You've got to separate your income from your expense. So if you'll look at that total, and like I said, I did this just before I came in this afternoon. Your total 4,100 Knox County distribution says that year-to-date, which is at the end of September of 2020, is $185,623.94. If you look at that's from clerk books. If you look at QuickBooks, which is the new numbers, and I went through every sheet from the county, every one of them's in there, and every one of them's added in. And that's $226,270.96. And what is that? About a $40,000 difference? Same numbers, same time period. So QuickBooks is apparently not picking up all the income. Now go to the very last page of that report. At the bottom of it, see the total 7,000 is the total business type activities, total expense, net ordinary income, which is your income minus your expense. And it tells you that our net income at the end of September of 2020 is $323,861.26. Pretty nice profit. Would you please look at page 7 of QuickBooks? Same time period, same figures, same entries. Except this is straight QuickBooks. This is closing tools, added on tools of QuickBooks. At the bottom of the page, it says business type activities, 298,000. That's pretty darn close. It's only about 3,000 off. Total expense, $1,159,000. Other expense, ask my accountant. Those are those ones that go into an accountant and show up somewhere else because maybe somebody didn't know where to put it. I've chased that $416.44 for a month. It's a payment, folks, on Sharon Street. But it came in with a water bill. And the deposit was split. And it was put into Sharon Street on the split, but the money was put into the operating fund. And then in an effort to take it out of the operating fund, there was a check written and a deposit was made again to Sharon Street, but out of the operating fund. And then in order to try to get that out, there was a sales slip provided, and since one side was to get it out of the second entry out of Sharon Street, the other place had nowhere to go and wound up in the water department. But in the end, this one shows we're 36,000 in the hole. I rest my case, and I'm not going through the rest of it with you because I haven't found my way through all of it yet, but I've spent enough hours at that computer, I spent enough hours in this office, and I'll be hanged if I'll come in here every meeting and be accused of stealing or lying to the public. I'm asking for an adjournment. If anybody wants to come through these figures with me, they can come in and ask.
Which one is supposed to be right?
I don't know.
Why are we using 2?
To show you what's happening.
How did you know it was wrong?
Because I was getting 2 conflicted reports when I went into 2 different places in the...
Which one did we have first?
You can't be 300,000 in the hole and have 500,000 sitting in the bank.
Bookkeeping is weird. Which one did we have first? Which system did we have first?
QuickBooks is QuickBooks Original.
And
QuickBooks is an
We've
add-on.
been using them at the same time.
Okay, we enter into QuickBooks, And QuickBooks is a tool that adds on to it, which is designed to do the utilities which QuickBooks will not do. And and I will go a little further here because I'll answer that in the fact that I have done the research over and over again. I've talked to other cities that use the QuickBooks or the ClerkBooks. Eddie is the guy with QuickBooks. He wrote it. I've yelled at him. He's yelled at me. We stop short of calling names and calling each other liars and cheaters and thieves. We want to find out what's going on with it, who's doing it right, wrong, or how should it be done. He called me Friday and said, "Can we work together, or do you want me to disconnect my program?" And I said, "My research tells me that we can't find too many programs that will do the utilities as effectively." He said, "Then I'm going to offer that we continue with a 5-hour lump of," we don't pay him anything. That's the beauty of it. We pay the program for the program. With QuickBooks, we pay yearly for that enterprise. It's like $2,500. So we pay Eddie nothing for the use of that program except this consultation hours. We paid him over $4,000 this past year that was scheduled last early spring. Most of those, the ones that are in there now, never talked to him. And when we did, we were yelling because we didn't, not particularly. But so what we're saying is, it's a cheap enough program. If we get it learned, and I've talked to the auditors, they trust him, they trust the program. So if we get that down to where we can work it well, it's not going to cost us anything, and it's a good program. Because here's another thing: the water department, I don't know, the people, the powers that be, have said, "We're going to make you," correct me if I'm wrong here, but there's the thing out there that you're going to have to report if you're buying X amount of dollars from Cedar and you are only using X amount that you're billing to your customers, where's that in between?
Sure.
And that makes sense, and we've tried, when we went to raise the rates a year ago, I started through the billings because they had the deal there. So I'm adding up all the gallons that we bought, used, all that. And I said, I don't even want to start through what we've sold. And something came up, and one of the gals was on ClerkBooks about something else, and she said, "Well, use your utilities thing." And I said, "What are you talking about?" "Well, there's a summary there. Click on the button, and there it is. All what we've used, you know, we have so many gallons, for example, that goes through here. That comes through on a bill that says city paid utilities. Problem is, it kicks it out as a zero. Well, that's not true. It's not a zero. It's city paid, so we need to have a price that we can put in our budget that we're paying for. We're paying the bill. But where's the other side? It looks like it's going to the customers, and it looks like we're losing that water. We're not losing it.
So
it's just not being...
So the reason for the transfer to ClerkBooks is because ClerkBooks will do everything QuickBooks will do, plus keep track of all the utility
They don't
accounts.
even try to do what QuickBooks. They use QuickBooks to bill them.
It's an add-on program.
It's an add-on.
And ClerkBooks shows that we have a net income of $232,000, and QuickBooks shows that we have a net income of negative $36,000.
Well, but Brooke, back up, because I said I'm not going to go through the rest of it because I'm not sure all of it's right. I was in here Saturday afternoon, and I changed 10 entries that were put in, you know, that were like double entries somewhere, which puts your...
But the gist of the matter is that the difference between the two programs is $350,000.
Right, which means that means something's off.
And that's kind of the cash that we're saying we have left over for unused budget authority next year?
No, I don't, yeah, I know that.
Is it just a matter of it not being recorded?
Well, I think that we were closer until recently when I really started moving things, and that's why I don't trust them at all now. Because, and that's not to say that I put them but I'm trying to put them where they belong, which may be overloading something. But for example, we had the payments that were coming in on the CBDG went into the CBDG bank account, but they were never recorded to the CBDG fund. So that 27 or 28,000, whatever you guys thought you had to, to move, it sat there all year. There was never anything added. Now it's 30-some thousand. Because that money finally went into that account.
Not to have anybody say that I would never pay any attention during the meetings, but while we were all talking about those other things, I found 4 or 5 accounts where they're recorded in QuickBooks but not in ClerkBooks.
That's right.
And so, this is of course me rambling along here, but what purpose does ClerkBooks serve if it's so wrong?
Okay, one more thing, one more time. It may not be ClerkBooks being wrong, Brooke. It may be the way it's entered. It may be the way that we've put the thing together. That's what we're trying to discover.
You wouldn't think $400,000 would be that hard to find in a category somewhere. I mean, I found $10,000 in 6 minutes, I guess, but that's not 400. There's something like egregiously wrong that Eddie can't find. It's his program.
No, back, please. You're pushing me. You're pushing me to say why we can't find it. If I knew why we can't find it, I'd have found it. But what I'm trying to tell you is that that's what we're in the process of, and in the process of moving everything, we're going to make it wrong one way or another, probably.
Which one are we trying to fix?
We're trying to make it right.
So we can only use QuickBooks?
No, so we can use them both. They are both
So you want them
legitimate
to match?
programs.
You want them to match at the end?
Yes.
Okay.
And the whole thing of the changing of the numbers in itself probably made ClerkBook drop some of those. They didn't have any numbers.
I guess I'm too dumb for the conversation. If you can make them match, why don't you just use one? If QuickBooks could match QuickBooks.
Everything goes into QuickBooks.
I understand.
QuickBooks is an add-on, so it picks up the stuff out of the QuickBooks entries to do its thing. Its thing is primarily to balance out the utilities funds, the proprietary funds, and to do the utilities summaries.
Right.
It doesn't try to affect the rest of it, but it's going to be affected if it's picking up amounts that are in the wrong area.
So just for instance, I went through utilities starting at like culture and recreation 6,500. And you can just work your way down the numbers and they match almost exactly, except for a couple of categories, 6,600, 7,105.02, 6,530. That just happened to be 3 that I found in 20 minutes that are not recorded, that are recorded in QuickBooks, but are not recorded in QuickBooks.
Okay.
So what is the purpose of using QuickBooks to record utilities if QuickBooks can do the same thing?
It doesn't.
So how does everybody else do it? I've never met Eddie and I don't know anything about QuickBooks.
Again,
How does everyone else do it?
I don't know.
I mean, enterprise QuickBooks, I use QuickBooks at my business, so I understand how the categories and all those things work. Are you saying QuickBooks can't keep track of individual customer accounts,
Okay,
usage totals?
Okay, let me see if I can do it this way, because this is what I was told when we bought it, okay? If you were, I'm not saying QuickBooks won't do it. But let me go back to your 6,000 and 7,000. The minute you went from 6,000, you went from an expense in the operating fund into 7,000, which is the utilities, and they should never be mixed.
No, I'm just saying that when I was going down the list, I found those as discrepancies from the numbers between the profit and loss from QuickBooks and the profit and loss
Okay.
from QuickBooks.
Okay.
They're numbers that are entered in QuickBooks that don't even exist in the QuickBooks program.
Okay, so QuickBooks...
So they're expenses that
and
don't
QuickBooks
exist.
is going to print only what they're picking up, so if they're not picking up what's there, it won't print. So that's what I'm trying to find.
I think it would be my estimation that QuickBooks is not working correctly. If
Well,
it's in QuickBooks and it's not in the other one, it's
That's
not
what
picking
we're
it up,
trying-
it's not picking it up correctly.
That's what we're trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what we're trying to do, is find out why it's a bad...
That's pointed out pretty dramatically because
It's $400,000.
On QuickBooks, more than that. On QuickBooks, the total
I'm
income
very aware of it.
I know.
there's $109,000 difference in income
In the income.
between the two programs, and it's even more evidence when you look at the last pay. The total expense on QuickBooks is $1,159,000,
Yep.
and on ClerkBooks, it's $695,000.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm trying
which
to
is
tell you,
the
because
difference
we
of
got more
$400,000.
income.
That's
We
what
got
I'm
more
saying.
income on QuickBooks, and yet we went in the hole.
Well,
But on ClerkBooks,
what
we
you
got,
what you gotta do is match up.
gotta match it.
out.
That's what I was doing. I
We
went
got-
by the, I went
But
through
you're not
it
gonna be able to do.
category by category to find out
And
where the
that's what, but
deficiencies
you've
were.
gotta do it on the computer and see what they're missing and where that entered, where it went to something else. It may be entered somewhere else, like that $416 has gone all over the board.
What you need to do is find out what is in both of them and what is out of both of them.
Yeah.
You do that
I
match
just
first,
did that.
find out where it goes.
I just spent 20 minutes doing that. I found 3 of them in 6 minutes, but it's not $400,000.
But we're not gonna do it tonight.
Well,
I just want to say on record, we have not accused
Okay.
you of stealing money, Cheryl. We have asked questions. And the reason we
I don't
asked,
need-
let
I
me
don't need to hear
say
that.
something. I'm on clear order. We have a right to talk in the meetings.
I don't know,
Now, you are the mayor, right?
you don't have to ask that,
Okay, who's the treasurer?
right there.
Okay, why are you doing all this?
Because there's nobody else to do it.
We need to hire somebody to do it.
Nobody will work for us with all the commotion.
What?
I'm not, I'm not gonna do this. Do I have to do this?
We need to clear the books up. How did you figure your budget if, what?
Okay, let me go back. I brought that stuff in here tonight to show you at its worst. This is the worst it's been. I also explained to you that we've been adding these numbers to try to clean it up.
Yeah.
I've also need to, if you caught this, the utilities section, I want to answer Brooks' question. He said, because I've had other people, Jeremy Bushcamp stood beside me in there the night we bought this and said, QuickBooks will do this. Now, let me explain to you why we're convinced that it will not, or it will take, if it will do it, it's going to be harder. Probably will do it. If you entered into QuickBooks your water, sewer, and garbage income off of one ticket. So when we build that, we're going to have water, sewer, garbage, tax, and meter reading. Is there another? That's it? Those 5, right? And then you're going to have later some add-ons. But okay, so let's assume that the QuickBooks can do that invoicing. They've done invoicing forever. But when you put that in there, you're going to put enter the invoice. You're going to open up each of those accounts. And you're going to have what they call a split account. So when you open that up in your books, probably you have to open the split account to see what you bill. They're usually, that right? Okay. So when they pay that bill, if you're going to take each of those against each of those funds,
Yes,
you have to do the same thing. You have to split that all up.
absolutely.
So what QuickBooks does is that when you pay that bill, that goes into accounts payable, that's part of the closing tools.
It moves all of them into
And
the
it
accounts
will-
for
and
you.
it disperses those all out to make that right. Right now, we've got water, sewer, and garbage in big amounts, but they're not necessarily, and I'm trying to figure that one out still, because it seems like we're still coming up with expenses. But we know what that expense is because we pay that. For example, we pay Cedar Knox for the water. That's a big amount. See,
Sure.
that's just, we don't have to do that individually. But government funding, or government accounting says that each of those funds is basically, which we call, I finally got from Eddie, is the class. You have to, and the other thing that we're playing with is the general funds as opposed to the restricted funds, as opposed to you know, the Sharon Street, all of that. We know the lost is restricted.
Right.
We know the streets are restricted.
When you,
But somehow, when you pull off this profit and loss, if you go back to the old QuickBooks or the old clerk books, profit and loss, if you pulled just the general fund, it would show general operating and police. That's it. And I said to Eddie, where's the baseball, softball,
Sure.
pool? That's all general funds. And he said, no, that's all restricted funds. And I said, why is it restricted? Well, because it's funded by your lost funds.
I appreciate
It
you.
was not, see, we've talked about that forever.
Right.
Those were not restricted. They did not get paid by loss.
I appreciate you don't want to argue with Eddie, but his program is $400,000 off. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't want to pick a fight with him either, but which one is...
I didn't say I didn't want to fight with him.
Is QuickBooks manually entered? Are they all entered with, like, when you put a check in, you put this category, this category, this category, you break that check out into all of those individual categories. So there's no way it could be wrong.
I didn't follow exactly what you
So say, you said when you go in and put in a payment, you break it, like if I have a $200 bill for water, sewer, and trash, and I give you a $200 check, you go into QuickBooks.
I don't break it up.
When I pay that, it doesn't get broken out in QuickBooks?
No.
So you're hoping QuickBooks will do that automatically for us? That's what we're after?
That's its job.
Yes, that's clerk's job.
That's
I get
its
that,
job.
but it's bad at it.
But,
I get that, but it's bad at it, because there's $400,000 worth of expenses that are recorded in
Well,
QuickBooks and not in QuickBooks.
you need to listen again.
I am listening.
If I close the books completely, I
Yes.
can't move and change anything. I need
at
to
some
be able
point-
to move and change.
But at some point, wouldn't you just do a general ledger change and lock it so that like my experience with QuickBooks is when you change a number here, it changes it in 3 different places that you didn't ask it to in the first place too. That's my limited understanding of how QuickBooks works. But wouldn't you at some point want to just start with a clean, this is what we've got?
Yeah, we kind
And
of
then
talked about
lock it
starting with a
down and
clean-
move forward?
With a clean.
Just to see if it works? I mean, because then if you did it by month or even by week, it would be glaringly obvious.
Actually, Lisa set
what
up a whole
QuickBooks
new
is
program
not-
to do just that. We're kind
Right.
of playing with.
It's hard to find because you're using it a year at a time. If you did it a month or even a week at a time and closed and stopped everything, it would give you an automatic number of what you're negative and how far you are off. And then you could easily find that rather than have to go back through, because your categories don't totally match. So it's hard to see which categories QuickBooks is not picking up, right?
Well, by getting it numbered and now I've tried to arrange the funds with all where they need to be, then that'll make it easier.
You're meeting with the QuickBooks representative?
Next week.
All right.
So here's the deal. I know you're anti-QuickBooks.
I'm anti-wrong. I don't care which one is wrong. Because we've now, and I say we liberally, I don't live here, of course, but we have now collectively made a budget using a $400,000 leftover unused budget authority number that could very well be zero if our bookkeeping is bad, but we know it's not because we have money in the bank. So that leads me to believe that QuickBooks is recording it wrong.
Don't cut me too short there, Brooke, because I did a lot of pencil work too. I'm not dependent.
Oh, I'm not doubting the work that, I see your car here all the time. I'm not doubting that you put the work in.
And don't, I'm
But-
not just talking about my car being here. I could sit here and sleep. But what I'm saying is, I understand that there's errors there, and I'm not going to point the finger at where they came from, but I know that a lot of them go back to the very beginning of this whole program, because a lot of it was put in under duress to everybody.
Talk to the man, get straightened out. If you have to transfer some funds to make it right, we'll transfer funds to make it right.
Exactly, and the other thing is that if it doesn't work, we move on to another one.
$350,000, we don't have that kind of money to transfer.
Make it
That's all the money.
Make it-
Cool. Just wondering.
we- I'm calling for a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Arlene makes a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Second by Isla.
Oh.
We'll have the meeting next month will be on the first Monday of the month, unless anything causes a problem.
Does this anything?
Got that.
Second. November 2nd.
Seconded by Isla. Call for the vote. Don?
Yes.
Isla?
Yes.
And Arlene.
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Good.